House of the Dragon Season 3 is set to have a conceptual episode unlike anything the show has done before, which could be very exciting for one character. Following House of the Dragon Season 2's ending, which faced criticism for its cliffhanger conclusion and largely being set up for what's to come, the pressure is on the HBO series to hit the ground running when it does eventually return. To that end, House of the Dragon Season 3 should deliver. Showrunner Ryan Condal has promised 4 major book events in terms of scale and spectacle, which should begin with the Battle of the Gullet early on. But interestingly, Condal also promised a conceptual episode that's character-driven, and isn't in the traditional vernacular of what we have laid out. We know the show can do battles, but what could this experimental installment be? Assuming we're not getting a musical episode with a literal Song of Ice and Fire, or a River Dance of the Dragons, I think there's one smart choice for what it'll do. House of the Dragon's conceptual episode could introduce its missing Targaryen. King Viserys and Alicent's 4th child will appear in Season 3. Tessarion in House of the Dragon. Daeron Targaryen will finally appear in House of the Dragon Season 3, having been away as a ward in Oldtown throughout the show so far. Viserys and Alicent's youngest child, he's been described as smart and kind, and different from his brothers thanks to having been raised away from King's Landing. He'll be one of the most important new characters in the 3rd season, and a conceptual episode that solely focused on him could be a good way to introduce him to viewers. For what that concept could be, I think it'll be an episode that goes through Daeron's life at a few key moments, showing him as a young boy in Oldtown, then having a few time jumps to go through the years. Show him responding to his father's death, for instance, then his reaction to Aegon taking the Iron Throne, or how he feels about the Targaryen civil war. This would be an efficient way of fleshing out his character, catching viewers up on exactly who he is and where he's been, and showing a different side to the story. House of the Dragon Season 1 had multiple time jumps and recasting, but doing them within the same episode, all in service of one character, would be unique. This could still devote plenty of time to the present-day story, so it's not just a frustrating deviation. It could have Daeron in the present deciding to join the action, flying on his dragon Tessarion. With theories that Otto Hightower is imprisoned by House Beesbury, whose castle isn't far from Oldtown, we could even have Daeron mount a daring rescue for his grandfather, meaning there's plenty to drive the plot forward while developing his character. What else House of the Dragon's experimental episode could be about? There are a few other possibilities. Helena Targaryen, Fire Sabin, looking distressed in House of the Dragon Season 2. If it's not Daeron, then there are some other creative choices that I think would be really fascinating to see done on screen, if less likely than introducing Alicent's missing son, such as one possibility could be to focus on Helena Targaryen. She's an intriguing character in her own right who also deserves more development. The show has given her dragon dreams, but with that she's become too removed and unknowable. An episode spent with her that dives more into her psyche and her different visions, blurring lines between dreams and reality, could be great if done right. We obviously saw that to a degree with Daemon's visions at Harrenhal, which was divisive, but I think doing it as a means of showing how Helena exists and that she's so often living in her visions, experiencing the world and reality so differently, would be its own thing worth exploring. A different option would be to combine the conceptual episode with one of the battles, but show it from a different perspective. Rather than following a Targaryen or two, make the POV smallfolk really hone in on the horrors of war from their perspective, and how they're the people who suffer most when the rich decide to go to war. Alternatively, it could do a Rashomon-esque story told from multiple perspectives. The book it's based on, Fire and Blood, draws on multiple historical sources, which often differ on how events happened. That's something that's inevitably been a little lost in the adaptation, where it has to be more definitive, but it's something that could work as a one-off narrative device. I'm sure, of course, there are other options too, and it's exciting to think of House of the Dragon doing something quite different and perhaps even risky in its 3rd season. I do feel Daeron is the most likely, but, whatever it is, it's one of the most intriguing teases we've had of Season 3.